So I got this 2012 Toyota Corolla, and I'm going to be changing out the transmission filter and the fluid. So I thought I'd show how I do it and how it could be done. So one thing is this has around 120,000 miles on it, and the fluid has never been changed, so it's pretty black. So I'm not going to do a complete change and flush. I'm just going to change out what's in the transmission pan, and which is around 3 quarts or so, which is much more recommended if you have a high mileage vehicle and the transmission fluid has never been changed. You can, of course, go ahead and do it however you want. You can't do a complete flush and put all new fluid in, but that can often cause problems with the transmission down the road. So however you want to do it, I'm just going to show you how I do it, and it's a method that usually works for me. And just to show you, you can take a look at this fluid right here. And as you can see, it's pretty black and dark, and so that hasn't been changed. That needs to be changed. That hasn't never been changed out. 120,000 miles, and I don't know if the camera inside the camera you can kind of see almost a little bit of red, but without it, it just looks solid black. So it should be red or like at least pinkish. So I'm going to be changing it out. And these are some of the items you're going to need: a 10 millimeter hex bit. This isn't totally necessary, but it's kind of handy to have. I'll show you in a minute. And a 10 millimeter socket, of course a filter, and a new gasket. I'll put links down in the description for all this stuff. And you're going to need the right fluid. Now there's different things floating around. Some people are using like Dextron 3, and you can go out there and read in the forums if you want and everything, but I'm going to use the original stuff that came with this, which is the Toyota ATF WS. This is the original Toyota transmission fluid that came inside these vehicles, and so it's a little more expensive, but I'd rather use it and get as close to original as I can. And I bought it on Amazon, as you can see. I'll put all the links in the description if you want to check any of this stuff out, but that's basically what you're going to need. And of course, you're going to need a drain pan and a way to fill it back up with transmission fluid. But basically, where we're going to be working at is right underneath the car here. Is right here. This is the transmission pan. If you look off to the left, there's the oil pan and where the oil filter would be changed at. Right here on the right, on the driver's side, transmission pan, which contains the filter and everything else. Now this is the bolt where the hex bit, where the 10 millimeter hex bit, where we let the transmission fluid drain. You don't actually have to do it like this. You can do it, just take these bolts off, which some people do because they think that this might leak or something. I've never had a problem, so I'm going to go and drain it first. But if you don't have the hex bit, or you think it might cause you issues down the road, you could just do it, just take all these off and let it plop down at an angle on one side, let it drain out a little bit and take it down. A lot of these transmission pans don't have this bolt, so it really doesn't matter that much. However you want to do it, I'm going to go ahead and get a 10 millimeter here hex bit, and I'm going to go ahead and bust this loose and let it drain first. So I'll be right back. So I just pushed real hard and broke this loose. I'm just going to go ahead and let this cap, I'm going to let this fluid drain into this drain pan here. Can do too is you can measure how much fluid comes out, so you know how much fluid to put back in, since we're not going to drain out all the fluid, but it could be a little bit low, so it's always best after it's filled to check it, drive it around a little bit and check it. I'll show you how to do that, but a lot of people measure the amount of fluid coming out and they'll put that much back in. So I'm gonna let this drain, and then I'm going to start to break loose all these 10 millimeter bolts all the way around. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got all the bolts out all the way around. Okay, so I got all the bolts out all the way around. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this transmission pan and pull down a little bit harder than I needed to, but basically it just popped down is all. And so next up, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all the way around here and clean this all out. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop this filter in and replace the old one up here. And as you can see, the old one's right here. It's got a bolt on it right here. And we got another bolt over here. We got 2 bolts. I'm gonna go and place these so I put them back in the same position. It probably doesn't matter, but I always like to put them back in the same spot they came out of. And there's a third one right there. Okay, so now this should just pop right out. And so there's the old one. As you can see, they just pop right out and in. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this to the side. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the new one. And so this new one is just gonna go in the same way the other one came out. I'm probably gonna have to use 2 hands to put these bolts back in. But I'm basically gonna put the same bolts in that I took out. From the same positions the way I do it. It probably doesn't matter. Okay, so I got the new filter in there, got the 3 bolts tightened up. And so next up is to go and put the transmission pan back on. So I need to clean up around here. Make sure you got it all cleaned up real nice and good. And as you can see, I got the pan all cleaned up real nice. So I need to put this gasket on. Okay, and so there's the gasket all the way around. And usually these have a thing where you can put the bolts in the bottom and they hold it. So you can get them all the way around started first, and then you can stick it up there. But this gasket doesn't want to hold them. As you can see, it doesn't want to hold them in there, which usually they're tight enough where they hold them. So if you have that type, then get all your bolts started first, and then the gasket should hold them. This one doesn't, so I'm gonna have to crawl underneath there, hold it up, and just do them one at a time. No big deal. It's just a little bit more time consuming is all. So I'm gonna go and crawl under there, get this all lined up, and get it bolted back up. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got it started. I got a few bolts in, not many, and I'm just gonna continue going around and getting these bolts started in here and making sure they line up with the gasket and everything's going together good. So I'm just going to keep going all the way around until I get them in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got them all in, hand tight, all the bolts, and so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten them down. And one thing I wanted to say is that when you tighten these down with the ratchet, is don't crank on them real super tight. You just want to start doing it until you see the gasket start to squeeze. As soon as you see it start to squeeze, you can stop. You don't want to over tighten them. So as soon as you see the gasket start to squeeze out a little bit, just stop right there, and that's where you'll be good at. So I'm gonna go all the way around, tighten them up, and put my drain pan bolt back in, and I'll be back. Okay, so I got my bolts all back in. I got them all tight. I also got the drain pan bolt back in. So next step is to start to put fluid back into the transmission, and so I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna go and add in a new ATF here. I'm basically going to add in how much I took out, and then I'm going to start it up and start checking it. And right now, if I guessed, I'd say 3 quarts. But as I pour one of these in, I'm going to go ahead and pour this old stuff into here so I can measure how much I am adding. If you get a drain pan, usually these have like marks on them, like 1 quart, 2 quart, 3 quarts. This one doesn't, so I'm gonna have to do it a little bit harder way. If you get a drain pan, try to get one that has markings inside. It would be easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding in the fluid, and I'll be back. And just in case you don't know, the fluid has to go back into the transmission fluid check tube, which is right here. It's right next to the battery, and hopefully you can see down there. And basically, you got to use a funnel and just add the fluid in right there. So I'm gonna need 2 hands to do this. So I'm gonna go and add the fluid. Okay, so I got 2 quarts in there, and I got a little bit left in this pan, but not much. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and check it, and then see where I'm at, and then I'm gonna add some as needed. The way this works when you do this is you'll have a cold, which is down here at the bottom, and you'll have a hot, and you'll need the engine running. But if the engine's running and it's cold, you just started it, you want to check down here, and if it's hot, you want to check up here farther. But that's basically how it works. So when you start the car, you first start it up, you get a rough idea, because it'll say be down here where it's cold. But it's really good to be able to warm it up a little bit and check it. So take it for a little bit of a drive, 5-10 minutes, and then check it, and check it up here while the car's running, where it's at around this hot marker. Hopefully you can see that. See that line right there? So that's basically what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make sure, and you don't want to overfill it, so make sure whatever you do, don't go over. So, but that's basically it. That's where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to take it for a little bit of a spin and check it while it's hot and add some more in as needed. If you want to get a more complete thorough flush, you can drive it however far, 1,000, 5,000 miles or whatever, and then just do this flush again, and it'll be even a better flush. But that's basically it, and how I do a transmission filter and fluid replacement on a 2012 Toyota Corolla. If you have any questions, ask me below and I'll try to answer them. But if this video helps you, please click like, subscribe, and have a good day.